Hey, what's up, guys? Rev here. So, obviously, censorship is always a big topic of discussion on this channel. And when it comes to video games, perhaps no genre or outlet is hit harder than Japanese video games. They are heavily censored and heavily tabooed, especially by the West. And today we're going to go over a couple of different stories involving censorship and moral outrage over Japanese games. So, the first story we're going to start off with is a little different. Now, normally when you think of censorship of Japanese games, especially anime-related games, you think of things like fan service, too much anime titty, things like that. Well, this story is unique because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. So it involves the Neptunia Sisters versus Sisters game that recently released. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with the Neptunia franchise. It's been around for a while, but in order to preserve their T for Teen rating, they had to make some changes to the game that has been patched on the PlayStation version. It'll be going out to the other versions soon enough. But this is the craziest set of censorship. So let's read the official notes on this. So it says, Neptunia Sisters vs. Sisters for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Steam will have a patch update that will change several text and audio lines. This patch was made to comply with the ESRB rating. So let's have a quick look at some of the things that they had to censor and alter and patch to keep their T for Teen rating on this game. It might be a little hard, but I'll read some of the dialogue. On the left, we have the previous versions, and on the middle here, the middle column, we have the revised text. So let me give you a few examples, okay? At the top, hey, those monsters were trying to kick our asses too. The revised text saying, hey, those monsters were trying to beat us up too. T for Teen game. Here's another one. We're gonna kick your ass. We're gonna beat you up. This one down here. Now you've pissed me off. Revised to, let's end this. Yes, saying, now you've pissed me off goes too far for a T for Teen rated game. That is insane. Down here, pretty much they really don't like the word piss or pissed in any context, right? Like here, oh, now you've really pissed me off. Grr, now I'm pissed. Change to just grr. Like, come on, this is the cake right here. They changed from the previous text bastard sword to brute sword. Now that's particularly hilarious because bastard sword is a historically recognized description of a two-handed sword. That is a real term. That is not a disparaging or something you can consider a curse word. There is just such a thing as a bastard sword. I'm surprised instead of going with brute sword, they didn't change it to like fatherless son sword. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And they go on to censor more uses of bastard generally, changing down here the word to what, or to simply die instead of insulting them with that. And yeah, that is the landscape we are working with on this game. That is all of the changes they had to make to preserve their T for Teen status on this game. That is insane. So there's a couple of questions that come to mind. Number one, was this a self-imposed set of censorship, or was the ESRB rating system playing their own hand here and putting pressure on them? It's probably a mix, right? Because if you are put pressure on by these rating systems that you're going to lose your T for Teen status, that's a big concern, because a lot of people go, oh, well, instead of doing all these changes, why didn't they just switch to M for mature? Well, you would have to recall everything as far as I know. You'd have to recall the current disc. You have to make all those changes. It's probably very costly. So they're kind of bound to do something, but it's crazy that they're in this position where they have to censor the most benign of talk. I'm sorry, last time I checked, teens swear. And T for Teen products are filled with curse words, going all the way up to words like shit. Like, you don't flinch when you hear something like that in a T for Teen game, because that's just how it's always been. But all of a sudden on here, you have words like bastard and pissed off in terms like that getting censored to preserve a T for teen rating. What is going on? That is completely unfair. And you know what? You don't see these kinds of censorship structures pushed onto Western games. I've never heard of a Western game having to censor words like that to preserve a T for teen rating. And it just fits the narrative that Japanese games are being completely and utterly treated unfairly. And unfortunately, Neptunia's Sisters vs. Sisters is just the latest example of that. And a lot of people are not too happy about this, but I thought it was definitely worth looking into. So continuing on in our quest about censorship of products originally based out of Japan, we're going to talk more about the Resident Evil 4 remake and a take from the Act Man, which I think, among many other people, think is a L take regarding this game. So we talked about the Resident Evil 4 remake about a week ago. It was recently released, and one of the big changes between that version and the original one from about 2 decades ago is that the character Ashley has been de-fan serviced. One of the things that was very well known in the original version of Resident Evil 4 is that there was many upskirt shots you could take of Ashley, the character, and in the remake they removed all of that, and they even removed some of her dialogue that would call the main protagonist a pervert, other characters like Leon a pervert, things like that. So people have pointed that out, and of course I talked about that, like what's the big deal? Isn't this kind of crazy that we're so worried about this character in a remake? But the Ackman comes out and says, I just discovered that there is a group of people with a weird obsession of wanting to look up Ashley's skirt in the Resident Evil 4 remake. Goddamn, just watch Poontang at this point. Such degenerates. Now, I find it odd, just like in my previous video, that everyone is so hyper-fixated on the upskirt shots of Ashley and the fan service relating to her, but they don't bat an eye at the fact this whole game revolves around brutal violence and murder. Like, what is so special about sexual themes as opposed to the violent themes? What makes it so inherently different and okay to remove as unnecessary versus the violent themes? I don't get it. Someone explain to me what the difference is. If they removed all gore from the game, blood, anything like that, violent acts, would you have the same, oh, just go watch a horror movie or a violent show instead? No, you wouldn't. You would be like, why did they remove that? Well, just because it's a silly, stupid fan service doesn't mean like it's just up for the chopping block because it's not necessary. None of this stuff is necessary. And I hate that argument to just go watch porn instead. I think that's such a cop-out, and it's just an odd take to see. I really don't understand what makes all of this so special. And a lot of people have been pointing out the hypocrisy of all this. People freaking out over the fan service of Ashley, but nobody batting an eye when it comes to the mods of other characters like Leon, who is a male. So in the coming days after Resident Evil 4's remake's release, there was different nude mods of the character Ashley and other fan service related mods, and Capcom has been going around and taking them down. Again, is this much of a self-censorship issue? Are they doing this to prevent getting in trouble themselves, or are they really trying to shut this stuff down themselves? How much of this has to do with the Western release versus Japanese release? Who knows? I don't know, but it is here because it's ironic that Capcom is shutting these things down, but there's not one mention anywhere of taking down mods of the character Leon, who is a man, and there is nude mods of him, and they aren't being taken down by copyright takedowns like these. Again, what's the difference? This is just hypocrisy. If the Ashley stuff's not okay, then the Leon stuff is not okay. Those mods should be treated the same. Not saying they should be taken down at all. Who cares about mods? But yeah, it's just this reactionary way of taking down anything involving just Ashley and ignoring the full context of the game, the other violent themes, and the other mods that are sexualizing Leon. It's just a very strange situation. And like I said, I think that take about just, it's degenerate stuff, go watch Poontang instead, is just kind of missing the whole point of gaming. Like, none of this stuff is necessary. So, like, especially in a remake, you really need to justify for an actual reason why something is so bad that it must be taken out, and why it's so much different than the other existing themes in the game that did carry over to the remake. But I want to end this video on a bit of a different note, a little lighter note. I think this is funny. A lot of people have been talking about this. So recently people have been clowning on Monster Energy Drink because they tried to file complaints in the Japanese Trademark and Patent Office about games using the word monster. They are basically trying to take down the use because people are confusing their use of the term monster for their own products with Monster Energy Drink, which is like the most delusional thing I've ever heard. And the targets of these filings were Pokemon and Monster Hunter. Pokemon coming out roughly, I think it was like 6 or 8 years before Monster ever became a company, by the way. And then Monster Hunter coming out about 2 years after that. But the obvious observation here is nobody in their right mind is confusing Monster Energy Drink with any of those products. Okay, that is obvious. And this lawsuit was tossed out immediately. But people are just clowning on Monster because of just the pure narcissism. And apparently, they're just going into court and using these very strict Japanese trademark system and copyright system to try to file any suit they can against people or companies using the term monster. And this is quite possibly the most ridiculous set of examples, trying to really go after Pokemon, of all things, a franchise that was there before Monster and is infinitely more popular than Monster. And to have that audacity to file a claim against them is true lunacy. But nonetheless, I thought we could enjoy a quick laugh at that. But that is going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed everything. Please let me know all your thoughts about these related topics in the comments section down below. And I'll see you guys next time.